Your network is your net worth. If you don't know enough, if you don't make enough money, you don't know enough people. You need to know people. People need people.
Hello and welcome, Orly. I am so excited for our interview today. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Oh my goodness. You are such an inspirational person. We met through different events, actually, a Podfest, and you spoke there. And we are also on a community together called OWL, which is a networking community. And then I spoke at your summit, the Be the Light Summit, and I learned so much more about you. I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, well, let's get started. You have several businesses. So tell our listeners, who is Orly? Before we go into your story, what businesses do you have? What do you do?
So my main one is that I am a business coach for public speakers and entrepreneurs, and I'm the only one in the world that guarantees they'll make 150K their first year in public speaking, or I work with them until they do. And although it's a tedious work, it is at least rewarding because I'm all about making impact in the world. So I'm also a public speaker and an author. And one of my philanthropical journeys is You Are My Light Foundation, where we are building healing centers for rescued victims of human trafficking, sex and labor slavery, so that we can give them back their God-given right to life, freedom, education, and autonomy.
That is so beautiful. Yes, the God-given right. Absolutely. And in order for us to have greater impact, we have to become the person we are meant to be, to live the life we are destined to live, which is the tagline of this podcast. And that's why I'm so happy to have you, because you certainly didn't start there. You weren't put in that place by your parents or anybody else. You worked for it and you worked through it. So I want to go right into your story, where you started out before you even get to where you are today. Can you share the story with us?
Sure, absolutely. So it's always a story within a story because I was in property management for 25 years and in real estate and so all kinds of businesses in a very long period of time. And eventually I was also speaking in that realm. And one of my friends called me one day and said, I need you to speak at this women's shelter that I am part of. And I said, what do you want me to speak about? Property management? And she said, no, silly. I want you to come and tell your story. And at the time, I felt the shame and the guilt and the sadness of that came with that story. I didn't want to share that story. And so she was very persistent. And for 3 weeks, she called me every day asking me if I would speak at this women's shelter. Finally, I said, why me? Why do you want me to talk there? And she said, well, you're such a bubbly personality. Everywhere we go, everybody hugs you and you're living a lifestyle that most people dream about. You're like a social butterfly. Just come and tell and give these people hope. And I finally relented and I went and I spoke at this women's shelter. It is there that I met a woman that wanted to end her life. And after hearing me speak, she decided to live and asked me to show her how. So in that sharing that I did in that women's shelter, this is my story. I was a beaten up child. I was molested 4 times before the age of 14. I was raped 3 times before the age of 22, twice gang raped, 9 months apart, left for dead. I was also married to a very abusive husband, both mentally and physically. And as a result of that, I had 4 abortions and I gained a morbid amount of weight. I was 428 pounds at my heaviest. So that's my story, but I believe that we should share our story because in the act of sharing, there's contribution. You just don't know whose life you're going to change.
I couldn't agree more. And I just finished an interview with a gentleman who said the same thing. He shared his story, his wisdom in a book, in his first book that he was very proud of. And sometimes we don't know who we touch with a book that goes out. But at one time, he got an email from a woman who said, I read your book and thank you so much, because that made me realize that my daughter was suicidal. I mean, can you believe that? Sharing your story and sharing your wisdom can make an impact to the effect that you can save actual lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and how did this, I mean, this is definitely a story that is also tied to what you do today. Obviously, you became a speaker because what was the transition? Let me ask you this before we go what you do now. What was the transition from being beaten up in a narcissistic marriage, weighing 400 pounds, to say, enough is enough? How did you do that?
Well, there was a lot of self work in there, but the most important part is to decide. Tony Robbins calls it cut off from. So to decide is to cut off from in Latin. And what it means for me is that my talk at that women's shelter was, how many of you think about your rapist? How many of you think about your husband who, your violent husband? How many of you think of this? And then my second question was, how many times a day do you think about it? Because what we think about is not what we bring about only, but what we think about is also just reliving it. So if we think about it, we're reliving that shame, that guilt, and we're also feeling the pain of what happened to us. And in order to stop that, we need to decide to basically not give those people, the perpetrators, any kind of power over us. My decision was, I am not going to be victimized anymore. I'm not going to, pity myself. I'm just going to stop this and do something about it. And as far as my foundation goes, I was not trafficked, but I certainly know what it's like not to have a voice. So after that women's shelter talk, that is my pivotal moment of where I decided that I will not do property management ever again, that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to impact people's lives. I want to help them get out of their own darkness and into the light.
Ah, that's just a profound sentence, you know. Get out of the darkness into your own light. And I couldn't agree more. We all have a shining light within us, and we are the shining light if we let it shine and not stop it. So, and making a decision is the first step, because no one can make you do anything. It's up to us to do something. And so, can you share with our audience like a practical step? So, if somebody finds themselves in a dark place right now and said, okay, I want to get out of it. Yes, I want to make a decision. Okay, I want to go, I make the decision, but there's still, okay, what's next? Can you speak about that?
Well, with the shame and guilt and feeling scrutinized or judged by your own story, because we judge ourselves even more, I would say, first thing, know that God loves you and has forgiven everything that you've ever think you've done wrong. That was my hardship, to forgive myself. It was not easy. But you got to make that decision, and you got to find love for yourself in order to make that first step into recovery or into learning more or into doing what you're called to do. You won't be able to listen if you continuously blame yourself and criticize yourself. Blame and criticism are the killers of all dreams, as much as procrastination, but more importantly, blame and criticism. We blame ourselves for things that we had no power over, and we also blame ourselves for things we do have power over, but we had no willpower. So there's a lot of things that are playing in our mindset. That's why you asked me what was my other business. I am also coaching CEOs and CFOs on mindset mastery, which I call myself the checkup from the neck up. And the reason you need mindset mastery is because it's not easy to walk alone. It's not easy to get out of it alone. You need somebody that has been through the mud already and knows how to get out. Can I tell you a cute story?
Please, yes.
I help public speakers, but I help also business owners. So there was a business owner that was walking down the street and there was a big hole. So he fell into the hole. And now he was screaming for help and nobody would help him. People would walk by him just like that. And one doctor passed by And he was yelling, help me, help me. And the doctor said, well, look, I don't know how to get you out of there, but here's some pills so you can calm down and relax your anxiety. And he went on. And then there was a priest that came by, and the man is screaming, help me, help me. And the priest says, I don't know how to get you out of that hole. Here is some prayer beads. Pray to God, and he might find a way to get you out of the hole. And he kept on going. And then one of his friends walks by, and she says to him, what are you doing down there? He goes, help me, help me get out. So the friend jumps in with him. And he says to her, are you crazy? What are you doing? Now you're here with me and we can't get out. How are we going to get out? And she says, I've been here before. I know how to get out. Follow me. And that's me. I know what to do in order to get you out of where you are because I've been there. And it might not be me. I'm just talking about getting a coach or getting a mentor, somebody to help you out because you might not see the way out. And one of my Orlyisms is you can't see the picture when you're in the frame.
I love that. And it's so true. It's so true. We are sometimes in our own world that we don't see past, and we need someone else, a coach, a mentor, another person that can show us, no, you're looking in the wrong direction. That's the direction, because they can see it from a bird's eye view. So well said. So when you speak at corporations, so about the mindset, companies, is it that they want to improve their bottom line, or they improve their employees to become better employees?
It's all of the above. I'm a certified behavior analyst. So what happens is that mindset is not just for corporations or corporate. I also certify coaches in my program. So my goal into going into corporations is on their needs. One could be that they are behind the 8 ball in communication between themselves. Putting the employees in the wrong position in the company is a big problem in our society. Some people are not made to be leaders, but they put them in leadership positions, and then they misperform or underperform, and then they wonder why. Well, and a lot of people talk about personality, there's DISC, there is the Myers-Briggs, and those things are so outdated in the sense of what is really needed as far as conversation. Then there is the bottom line. The bottom line is not happier employees do make for a better bottom line, but also feeling good. People don't show up, don't call in sick. You feel good about yourself, then you feel happy to go to work. And if you don't love your job, I mean, it is proven that 97% of our population does not like their job.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we improve on that? By improving their healthy mindset to be happy at what they do and be happy to come to work and to contribute to the bigger picture, to feel like they belong. Most people just want to belong.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways that I help in corporations. And of course, your network is your net worth. If you don't make enough money, you don't know enough people. You need to know people. People need people.
Yes, 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 I couldn't agree more. That is one of the things that a lot of people miss, especially nowadays after COVID. Everybody was in their own little world, and it's so hard. And when I, as a communication coach, I also help to understand that we need human interactions. That is so important, and more than anything nowadays, to be more in person. And we can go back into person, and so we have to kind of shift back to that a little bit. Wouldn't you agree?
People talk about balance, and I just don't feel that that's really the right word. You gotta have self care, which means that you do need to be out there meeting people as well as just connecting with people like we are doing right now. You mentioned something about the author of that book. I mean, writing books is a great thing, but at the same time, you just don't know who's going to read it, when they're going to need it. So when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And so what I think about what's going on right now is that people have given themselves permission to stay secluded, thinking that that is the solution. And as you mentioned, It's not the solution. The solution is that people need people. The
People,
uses of
people.
technology, right? Of technology has made it, you go to restaurants, you go to places where everybody's on their phone and there's no conversation.
Oh my
Just
gosh.
simple conversation. How are you? What have you been up to? Maybe just like, hey, what's exciting in your life right now? Instead of saying, what do you do? Like, those are not the questions I use. Usually I would use a question like, how can I support you? And the response is always like, well, how can you support me? You don't even know what I do. And I'm like, well, I don't need to know what you do because I don't want to do what you do, but I do want to know how I can support you. And so it's like, you're an architect? Good. What does that do for me? How do I support you? Who do you want to meet? You mean you want to meet some construction people, or, you want to meet real estate agents? Who do you want to meet so that I know who to introduce you to? But being an architect doesn't add anything to my life. I mean, good for you. Congratulations, right? You have a diploma. I'm so happy for you.
That's right. I recently was at a chamber event, and the first things people, hi, what do you do? Or, hey, I help that at all. It's like, thing, right? So yeah, we have to shift that. So talking about that, you are a business coach as well, and you say that you help people get to $150,000. You make that claim, $150,000 a year, or you work with them until they get there. But of course, you probably have your framework and what you teach, but then there's also the people. So they have to do the work. So how do you follow through to that promise?
Well, very good question. The first thing is, people who have never made $150,000 in 1 year don't even believe they can do it. Let's start with that. It's a mind shift first. The other one is, why do we want to speak? That's the first question I would ask your audience. Why do you want to be a public speaker? And I know the answer. It's not to do the one-to-one because it's exhausting. How about we do one-to-many and we can have our message spread faster, wider? Most importantly, the work that needs to be done to make 150K, you would laugh. It's only 1 hour a day, 5 days a week after it's built, right? And what I say to people is that there are 64,000 events a day in America alone, Canada and the United States, that pay speakers. Yet most speakers are broke. And when I'm thinking about the 150K, when people say to me, well, how can you guarantee that? Nobody guarantees anything. And I say, you know what? You're right. That's a great question. So let me ask you this in exchange. If I can guarantee you a job at McDonald's, anywhere USA, can I guarantee they start you at minimum wage? And most people say, yeah, of course, it's the law. And I said, great. Then in the industry of public speaking, 150K is minimum wage. We make way more than that. So that's what you need to first find as a framework for your mind to even comprehend this, right? The second part of it, though, is, how many times do you have to speak for how much in order to make 150K? So what if we only worked 10 months out of the year, not 12? And for 10 months, we will speak 6 times a month, which is 60 times a year, 6 times a month, for $2,500 a pop. That's 150K. What if for those same 10 months, we would speak only 3 times a month for $5,000 a pop? That's 150K. So you can see how the math is pretty easy to make. It's just that, how do I get there if I've never made money before? If I've never gotten paid to speak before? Well, that's where I come in. First, we need to position you in this industry so people want to hire you. That's number one. Number two, you got to speak the language of event planners, knowing where to find them, how to talk to them, what to say first, second, and third, how to deal with them, how much to charge, when to charge, how to scale. It is a scale business. But if you've never been paid, you need to know where you start in this industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you said is so true, is the mindset shift. And did you find that because it seems like more and more people, and I hear that a lot, oh, I have a story to tell. And they want to be that motivational speaker that share their story, but from being nobody to getting paid, as a motivational speaker. It's a long bridge because most companies want to have people with a large following
That's
or
not
have
true.
already something.
That's not true. So a lot of people are teaching that. What you just said now
Hmm.
is like 16 years ago, 20 years ago. We don't talk like that anymore. And it's not true that companies only hire people who have been around for a while, or it's about how you show up for the companies. It's about how you show up, not who you are. You know, nobody, like many people come on my calendar to talk to me and, pick my brain, as they call it. And at the end of the day, they tell me, well, I never heard of you. And I say, well, I never heard of you either. That makes two of us. Because at the end of the day, that's not what it's about. I say people get into the public speaking arena to feed their ego or feed their pocket. I'm here to feed your pocket, not your ego. And for me, I don't have an ego. And nor do event planners care about your ego. And they don't care that you've been on Fox News, ABC, that you have 10 books that you've published, that you're a best-selling author, that you've been on a TEDx talk, that you've been on 100 podcasts. No one cares. The first thing they care about is about you showing up on time and finishing on time, because you can screw their whole agenda.
Yeah.
And that is really what's important to them. If you have a story, you need to frame it in order to give people a lesson from it. What is the lesson learned for you? But what is the lesson that they can learn from it? So here's the framework that I work by. 5 questions. Who are you? What do you know? What problem are you solving? How are you solving it? And why should I care? Not why should Orly care or Sabine
Yeah.
care? Why should people and event planners care? People who want to hire and pay you to speak, why should they care? People do not pay for inspiration or motivation. They pay for problem solving, a
Exactly.
problem solution.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so well said. And I'm glad that you said it, because people like speakers with their ego, they want to just inspire and share their story, but the problem solving and what you said, it's so, so, so important. Don't think about yourself. Think about the other person, the other entity, the other one on the other line. What is in it for them? And when you can give that answer so clearly, then they lean in and then, oh yeah, I would like to hear more, right? It's with everything. You ask what's in it for me.
If you try that when you talk to people and you say, oh, I'm a motivational speaker, there's 2 answers that they're going to have. One is interesting, right there, right? Or "Oh, really, what do you talk about?" Right?
Yeah.
And then the person gets stuck right there. They don't even know what they talk about. It's not their story. Nobody cares about your story. What has your story taught you, and how does that lesson help me, is the answer. So, may I share? One of the things that people don't understand is what happened after the pandemic. First, I want to share with you that we are now short 1 million speakers in the world. And we are also 1 million coaches short in the world. This industry right now is a $113.2 billion industry around the world. And by 2026, they are projecting that it's going to be a $118.9 billion industry. So there's room for everyone. What happened during the pandemic, and that's very funny story for me, because as you heard me earlier, I said there are 64,000 events a day in America that pay speakers. And those did not vanish during the pandemic. So let's separate them into 3 groups. The first group canceled their events. They didn't know how long this was going to last. They didn't know what to do. They didn't have the infrastructure. None of us even expected this to happen. So let's give them grace. The second group was completely organized and had the infrastructure to pull a switch and just go on Zoom. And wouldn't you have liked to have stocks in Zoom in December of 2019,
Yeah.
right? That's what I tell people all the time. But that group was able to just flip a switch, send an email out to the speakers as well as to the attendees. And here is where we're going to go. Here is your link. We'll see you there. Happy to, happy, right? And I was one of those speakers that got paid already for some of these events, and I'm not giving the money back. You want me to speak? I'll speak on Zoom. No problem. We'll talk about virtual in a minute. And the third group is the ones that actually postponed their event because they had a venue involved. So they postponed the event for 2-3 years down the line because of the availability of the venue. But they also had a contingency that they will postpone. And if again, the venue is not ready or they couldn't, they will make those events virtual. But by then they will be ready. They will have all the infrastructure. The third group had a very big problem on their hand during the pandemic is that the speakers were canceling on them. They had a bigger problem. Now they had to scramble to find speakers because the speakers were not available at the dates that now the event is going to happen in 2-3 years from now. Some people are booked that far away. Guess who picked up the slack? People like me who didn't look at the TV, who didn't watch the news, who didn't listen to all the noise that was happening. And I tell people I tripled my business during the pandemic. April, May, and June of 2020, I did more in speaking than I did in 2018 and 2019 during those same months. So what does that tell you? First of all, that there's a need. Two, that you are needed. Your message is important, but don't get hung up on your story. Know the business side of things. That's really where it's at.
So valuable to understand for people to, yes. And obviously, if they want to learn more, work with you, I'm going to put the link in the show notes. Do you have a specific website or a link that you connect with people or people can connect with you?
Absolutely. So meet MEET Orly ORLY Amor AMOR.com. Meetorlyamor.com is my website. Through the website, you can get on a call with me, a 30-minute discovery conversation, no strings attached. Please go ahead and do that and tell me that you met me here on the Sabine show Become. So excited to be here.
Yes, yes. And so lastly, I would like to talk about your foundation. When I was speaking at your event, the Be the Light event, Tim Ballard from Operation Underground Railroad was there as well for a short while and shared with us what's going on in the world. Can you tell us a little bit about the project that you are working on and how people can support you?
Awesome. So You Are My Light Foundation. So it's IOUAREILIGHT light.org is our website. And you can go and find out more, watch videos, as well as find out about our mission and how you can support. There's many ways you can support. I would invite people to understand that even though I was not trafficked, I know what it's like not to have a voice. And I have seen and heard enough to understand that there is a big need for the recovery centers. Not only just recovery, because a lot of people have safe houses. There are some safe houses out there, mini houses, tiny houses, whatever. There's so many little things that are being done, and God bless those people for already doing it. I believe that the victims or the survivors of human trafficking, sex and labor slavery need a lot more than just a safety house. They need to be addressed mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and somebody to guide them through that mud and make sure that they are strong, confident, and know what to do next in order to sustain themselves and provide for themselves. Many of these safe houses and other shelters and things like that don't accept any children or women that have STDs, have any addiction of any kind, or have any mental issues. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but they have all three. Not only that, one of them that they develop, which is a mental state, it's called DID. It's like a multiple personality disorder. And some of them are suffering from it. But if you don't know how to recognize it or work with it, you're not going to help them. You're going to help them have what do you call it, survival mode that they had to create for themselves in order to survive the pain that they've been going through. So we need safe havens that also have all the modalities of giving them back their youth. They were stolen as children. So that means they had no games, no sports, no recreation. music, everything that we are not think pets. Like they have not had any of these responsibilities, but they were completely robbed of their youth and their childhood. And although I think I have had the same experience because I was molested for 4 years from the age of 10 to the age of 14 by a family member, I get it. I get what it means to not want to be around people, not to be wanting to be even around family, because the very people that are meant to save you and keep you safe are the ones that literally you feel betrayed. So, how do you gain that confidence back? How do you gain that youth back? You don't. There's other ways and other means that we need to give to these children or adults now. Some of them come out and they're 18, 19, 20, up to 28 years old.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's so needed. And so that is the vision that you have to have a healing center for exactly that purpose.
Yes, with dormitories, a hospital, mental health workshops and other workshops and a painting room and a music room and a sports room and a physical therapy room. Like there's things that they have to go through, and we're not going to let them just go back out into the world. They will be also be able to have a job that pays them in the center. We have companies that are willing to bring the workforce into our center so that they don't have to come out right away and find a job and find an apartment and have those responsibilities until they feel strong enough mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
That is so fantastic. And if anyone listening, obviously, as you can just imagine, that this takes a lot of money to build and get started with. And we're looking for people who have that passion, who want to have the resources. Maybe you don't have the financial resources, but you know someone who has the financial resources, or you know someone who can pitch in by just pure working hours, right? Building something. There's so many different ways you can contribute to that cause. And I invite everybody to please go click on the link, learn more, and ask how you can get involved and pass on this information. Share this podcast with your friends or someone who could help, or maybe just get some information and some hope just listening to this podcast.
Indeed.
Thank you so much, Orly. Is there any last thing that you want to share that I haven't asked during our conversation?
No, but I do have to, well, for the business of public speaking and making impact in this world, my last word for that is if you have a message, somebody's willing to pay for it. So don't sell yourself short and don't speak for free. The other one is for my foundation. As we discovered with Tim Ballard, the real rescue is after the rescue. So open your mind, open your heart. I know there's a lot of shysters out there and things that you don't believe in because you hear all the horror stories, but there are people who are doing good. And those are the people that need your support. We're going to need to build an army in order to get this done. And it's going to take some time. So we need all the help we can get. Like you said, resources, but sometimes you know people that know people and you can open doors, and that's good enough.
Thank you so much, Orly. All the best. And I'm sure we're going to hear more from you in the future.
Thank you so much.